The transport crashed at dawn, tearing through violet canopy like a blade through silk. Kira Chin hit the ground rolling, muscle memory overriding panic as emergency training kicked in. Around her, 17 cadets from the Galactic Military Academy scrambled from the smoking wreckage, their various appendages tangling in unfamiliar terrain. She counted heads quickly, noting the four-armed Vexian clutching his secondary shoulder, the crystalline Quarren already cataloging damage with mathematical precision her species was known for, and the hulking Dromoth who looked ready to tear something apart. Everyone breathing? Kira called out, brushing dirt from her academy uniform. The fabric was designed to withstand vacuum exposure, but apparently not jungle humidity. Already she could feel sweat beginning to form. Breathing is a generous term for what I am doing, wheezed Talver, the Vexian. His skin had shifted from its usual cobalt to a sickly gray. This oxygen concentration is barbaric. Welcome to a Class 7 survival planet, Kira muttered, scanning the crash site. The transport had split nearly in half. Emergency supplies scattered across 50 meters of undergrowth. Could be worse. Could be Class 8. How comforting, came the crystalline voice of Shenna, the Quarren, light refracted through her translucent body at odd angles. I calculate our survival probability at 32%, assuming rescue arrives within 48 hours. That probability decreases by 7% for each additional day. Love the optimism, Kira said dryly, really setting the mood. She moved toward the wreckage, stepping over twisted metal and shattered instrumentation. Their survival instructor, Commander Vrel, lay pinned beneath a support beam. The Corinthian's breathing was shallow, his reptilian features twisted in pain. Commander? Kira knelt beside him, assessing the damage with practiced eyes. The beam had crushed his lower torso. Internal injuries, definitely. Without medical equipment, without extraction capability. The prognosis was clear. Vrel's eyes focused on her, recognition flickering through the pain. Done. Good. Listen carefully. Emergency beacon is destroyed. Communications are down. Rescue will not come for at least 7 days, maybe 10. You understand what this means. We wait it out. Conserve energy. Standard survival protocol. No. Vrel coughed, a wet sound that made several cadets flinch. Look at them, Chun. Really look. Kira glanced back at her classmates. 17 beings from 9 different species, each evolved under wildly different conditions. Talver was already trembling, his dual cardiovascular system struggling with the atmosphere. Shenna's crystalline structure seemed duller, likely from the heavy moisture. The Dromoth, Corvin, was pacing like a caged predator, clearly agitated by the enclosed jungle environment. They cannot survive 7 days here, Vrel continued, his voice dropping. Their biology is wrong for this place. 3 days, maybe 4 at most. Then they start dying. The words settled over Kira like a physical weight. What about rations from the ship? Destroyed. Fire consumed the cargo bay. You have what is in your packs, nothing more. Kira did quick math. 18 people. Standard emergency rations designed for 3 days if stretched thin. Except these were not standard cadets. The Dromoth alone needed 4 times the caloric intake of a human. The Vexian required protein chains that did not exist in synthesized rations. The Quarren absorbed nutrients through dermal contact with specific mineral solutions. This is not a survival exercise anymore, Vrel whispered. This is a death sentence. Unless what? You are human, from a death world. This environment is close to your evolutionary baseline. You can move through this jungle. You can hunt. You can provide what they cannot provide for themselves. Commander, I am a first-year cadet. I am not some wilderness expert. But you are human. Vrel's grip tightened on her wrist with surprising strength. Your species survived ice ages, predators, plagues, and wars before you even left your planet. That survival instinct is coded into your genes. They do not have that. They evolved on safe worlds, comfortable worlds. You evolved where everything wanted to kill you. Kira pulled back, standing abruptly, around the clearing. Cadets were beginning to organize, setting up a basic camp with a discipline drilled into them during academy training. Rena, the The Sylphian, with her moth-like wings, was directing others to gather intact supplies. Jorvok, a stocky Threndian, was attempting to construct shelter from debris. They moved with purpose, with training, with the confidence of beings who had never truly faced death. Their homeworlds had eliminated predators, controlled weather, engineered safety into every aspect of existence. Even their military training was sanitized, simulated, theoretical. Kira had grown up in the Cascades, where her family still practiced what they called heritage survival skills. Fishing, hunting, tracking. Skills that most humans had abandoned centuries ago. But her grandmother had insisted were important. Because machines fail, girl. And when they do, you better know how to feed yourself. She had thought it was quaint, unnecessary, a hobby for nostalgic old-timers. Now, staring at 17 beings who would slowly starve in a jungle full of food they did not recognize and could not access, she understood. All right, Kira said quietly, turning back to Vrel. What is the terrain like? What am I working with? Dense jungle. River system 1 kilometer west. Predators, definitely, though I cannot specify species. Edible plants exist, but require knowledge to identify. Animal life is abundant. Vrel paused, each breath more labor than the last. You will need to be smart, chun, and careful. You are tough by their standards, but you are not invincible. Noted. One more thing. Vrel pulled a knife from his belt. The blade nearly 30 centimeters, of molecularly aligned steel. Take this. It was forged on Crinthia, from metals that endure. It will serve you better than any tool in the wreckage. Kira accepted the weapon, feeling its weight, its balance. The handle fit her grip perfectly, as if made for human hands. Thank you, Commander. Do not thank me. Just keep them alive. That is an order, Cadet. Sir. She straightened into a salute, which Vrel returned weakly. By the time she returned to the main group, basic camp was established. Rena had organized cadets by capability, the moth-winged Sylphian proving to have unexpected leadership qualities. Supplies were inventoried. We have a problem, Shenna announced, her mathematical mind already working through logistics. Rations will last 37 hours at minimum consumption. Water supplies are adequate if we can locate and purify sources. Medical supplies are sufficient for minor injuries only. Communications equipment is destroyed. Emergency beacon is non-functional. So we wait for rescue, Jorvok said, his 3 eyes scanning the jungle nervously. We conserve energy and wait. Waiting will kill you, Kira said flatly. 17 faces turned toward her, expressions ranging from confusion to offense. Commander Vrel is dying. He gives us 7 to 10 days before extraction. Most of you will not make it that long. Your biology is wrong for this place. That is absurd, Talver protested, though his voice lacked conviction. We are trained military cadets. We can endure hardship. You are trained for space combat and theoretical survival scenarios. This is not theoretical. Kira pointed at Talver. Your species evolved on a high-oxygen world with minimal temperature variation. You are already struggling with the atmosphere. 3 days from now, your systems will start shutting down. She turned to Shenna. Korin require crystalline mineral structures for nutrient absorption. There are none in our rations. You are essentially on a starvation diet already. Her gaze swept across the others. Dromoth need massive caloric intake to maintain muscle mass. Sylphians cannot process synthesized proteins. Threndians require specific amino acid chains that do not exist in standard rations. Silence stretched across the clearing, broken only by jungle sounds and the distant call of something large moving through the canopy. What are you suggesting? Rena asked carefully. I am suggesting that I go hunting. This jungle is filled with life. Food. Real food, not synthetic survival paste. I can bring back meat, identify safe plants, locate water sources. I grew up doing this. It is literally in my blood. You are a first-year cadet, Corvin the Dromoth said dismissively. His species valued strength above all else, and Kira knew she looked small to him. What makes you think you can accomplish what 17 trained military personnel cannot? Because I am human, Kira replied evenly. And this is a death world. My species wrote the manual on surviving places like this. Arrogance. Fact. Kira met his gaze without flinching. My home world spent millions of years trying to kill my ancestors. Predators, disease, starvation, climate catastrophes. We survived anyway. Your worlds were gardens by comparison. Safe, stable, comfortable. You never needed to develop the skills I'm talking about, because your evolution never demanded it. So what is your plan? Rena asked, her wings fluttering nervously. You venture into unknown jungle alone while we sit here helplessly? I scout. I hunt. I gather. I bring back food and supplies. You maintain camp, care for the injured, prepare whatever I bring back for consumption. Kira began checking her gear, mentally cataloging what she had to work with. We all survive until rescue arrives. That is the plan. It is insane, Shenna said, though her crystalline features betrayed calculation. However, I cannot propose a superior alternative. My projections show that attempting to survive on rations alone results in 89% casualty rate. I vote we let the human try, said a quiet voice from the back. Lissa, a young feline with feline features, stepped forward. Her species was predatory, though they had evolved past physical hunting millennia ago. I have studied Earth history. Their survival capabilities are documented extensively. If anyone can do this, it is Chun. Kira nodded thanks, then looked at Rena. The Sylthian had emerged as a de facto leader, and her opinion would carry weight. Rena was quiet for a long moment, her compound eyes reflecting jungle light in prismatic patterns. Finally, she spoke. How long will you be gone? First trip? 3 hours, maybe 4. I need to scout the area, identify water sources, locate game trails. I will not go far initially. Once I understand the terrain better, I can range farther. What if something happens to you? Then you are in the exact same situation you would be in if I stayed here and did nothing. Kira hefted Vrel's knife, checking the edge. Only difference is if I succeed, you eat. If I fail, you are no worse off than right now. The logic was brutal but undeniable. All right, Rena said, but you take a communicator. If you can, check in every hour. If we do not hear from you for 4 hours, we assume the worst. Fair enough. Kira spent 15 minutes preparing, stripping unnecessary weight from her pack, securing the knife at her belt, filling water containers. She could feel eyes on her, skeptical, worried, hopeful. The pressure should have been crushing. Instead, she felt focused, calm, like something inside her had clicked into place, something ancient and primal that recognized this environment as home in a way the sterile corridors of the academy never had. Chun, Tal recalled as she reached the jungle edge. Good hunting. She grinned back at him. I am human. Good hunting is redundant. The jungle swallowed her in seconds, violet canopy closing overhead like a cathedral ceiling. Sounds intensified immediately. Bird-like creatures calling warnings, insects buzzing in harmonic frequencies, something large crashing through undergrowth to her left. The air was thick, humid, oxygen-rich by human standards, but challenging for lungs evolved in thin orbital stations or desert plateaus. Kira moved carefully, placing each foot with deliberate precision. Her grandmother's voice echoed in memory. Walk like water, girl. Be patient. The forest will tell you what you need to know if you shut up and listen. She listened. Within 20 minutes, she had located a game trail, the earth packed hard by repeated passage. Tracks pressed into soft soil near a shallow stream showed at least 3 different species, including something with claws that left gouges 2 centimeters deep. Predator, definitely, but also potential food source if she was smart about it. The stream ran clear over smooth stones, and Kira knelt to test the water. Cool, clean, flowing fast enough to discourage stagnation. Purification tablets would make it safe for everyone. She marked the location mentally, noting landmarks. Farther along the trail, she found droppings that indicated herbivores. Large ones, based on volume. Where there were herbivores, there would be predictable movement patterns, feeding grounds, watering holes. She just needed to observe, learn, adapt. An hour passed. Then 2. Kira moved like a ghost through the jungle. reading the landscape with instincts she had not known she possessed. She found edible plants, identified by leaf structure and smell. She discovered a fruit-bearing tree with heavy branches sagging under ripe offerings. She tracked a creature that looked like a six-legged boar, noting how it moved, where it fed, how it reacted to danger. By hour 3, she was crouched in undergrowth overlooking a small clearing where 4 of the boar creatures grazed. They were massive, easily 200 kilograms each, with thick hides and sharp tusks. Taking one down would require precision, speed, and a bit of luck. Kira checked her knife, feeling the blade's edge. One clean strike to the throat or heart. That was the key. Anything else risked a prolonged fight that could injure her or alert predators. She waited, controlling her breathing, watching for the perfect moment. The creatures were wary, constantly scanning for threats. But they had not evolved to recognize human scent or silhouette. She was invisible to their perception, just another part of the jungle, the smallest of the 4 separated from the group, moving toward a fallen log. Kira tensed, muscles coiling. Closer, just a bit closer. The creature lowered its head to root beneath the log. Kira moved. She covered 5 meters in complete silence. Blade already positioned, stance perfect. The boar thing began to turn, instinct warning of danger, but too slow. Kira's knife found a throat, slicing through hide and artery in one fluid motion. The creature made a strangled sound, collapsing as blood pumped across jungle floor. The other 3 bolted, crashing away through undergrowth in a panic. Kira stood over her kill, breathing hard, adrenaline singing through her veins. The creature was already dead, life fading in seconds. Clean, efficient, necessary. Sorry, she whispered, placing a hand on his flank. But my people need to eat. Cleaning and butchering the animal took another hour. Kira worked with practiced efficiency, separating usable meat from organs, saving hide that could be useful, discarding what could not be carried. By the time she finished, she had roughly 40 kilograms of prime protein packed into makeshift wrapping from her supply bag. The journey back to camp took twice as long, weighted down with meat and constantly alert for predators drawn by blood smell. But she made it, emerging from the jungle just as the sun reached its zenith. The sight that greeted her made her stomach drop. Commander Vrel was dead, his body laid out with military precision. Around him, the remaining cadets looked hollow, frightened, reality settling in with brutal clarity. But when they saw Kira, saw the meat she carried, saw the blood on her hands and the fierce determination in her eyes, something changed. Hope flickered where despair had taken root. Dinner, Kira announced, dropping the heavy pack, is served. Rena moved forward, staring at the fresh meat with disbelief. You actually did it. You killed that thing with just a knife. I am human, Kira said, too exhausted for modesty. This is what we do. She spent the next 2 hours teaching them how to prepare the meat, how to cook it over carefully controlled fire, how to divide portions based on nutritional needs. Talver cried when he took his first bite of real protein, his biology responding immediately to the nourishment. Corvin ate in silence, but his eyes showed newfound respect. Shenna absorbed mineral-rich broth made from bones, her crystalline structure brightening perceptibly. They ate until full, perhaps the first real meal any of them had consumed since the crash. And as darkness fell across the jungle, as predator calls echoed through the night, Kira sat apart from the group, cleaning Vrel's knife with methodical care. Liz approached, settling beside her. You saved us today. Today, Kira agreed. Tomorrow I have to do it again. And the day after that. For 7 more days, maybe 10. You will. I believe that now. Kira glanced at the feline, seeing genuine admiration in her feline features. What changed your mind? Watching you work. You did not hesitate, did not doubt. You moved through that jungle like you owned it, like you were born to it. Because you were. Lyssa's tail flicked thoughtfully. We spend so much time at the academy learning to fight in space, to command ships, to think strategically. But we forgot the oldest form of warfare, the kind where you survive by being stronger, faster, smarter than everything trying to kill you. Your species never forgot. You carry that knowledge in your bones. My grandmother would be proud, Kira said softly. She always said these skills mattered. I thought she was being sentimental. She was being wise. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the jungle's nighttime symphony. Eventually, Lissa stood, stretching in that fluid way felines had. Get some rest? Chun, tomorrow we will need you again. Tomorrow, Kira echoed. But as she settled into her bedroll, exhaustion pulling her towards sleep, a sound cut through the darkness. Movement, large, deliberate, circling the camp perimeter. Multiple sources, coordinated. Kira's eyes snapped open, every instinct screaming danger. And then the first predator stepped into the firelight, its 6 eyes reflecting orange flames with predatory intelligence. Behind it, a dozen more emerged from the jungle, each easily 3 meters long, scaled and muscled and very, very hungry. They had been drawn by the blood, by the scent of fresh meat, by the promise of easy prey. Kira rose slowly, knife in hand, placing herself between the creatures and her sleeping classmates. The lead predator watched her, head tilting, assessing. It had never seen a human before, did not recognize the threat, saw only a small, soft thing standing alone. It was about to learn a very painful lesson about what humans could do when protecting their pack. Come on then, Kira whispered, settling into a combat stance her body remembered from 1,000 training sessions and 1,000,000 years of evolution. Let me show you why my species conquered a death world. The predator lunged, and Kira moved to meet it, blade flashing silver in firelight. The predator came fast, faster than Kira had anticipated, its scale body uncoiling like a spring loaded with lethal intent. She dropped low, feeling claws slice through air where her head had been a heartbeat before, and drove Rel's knife upward into the soft tissue beneath the creature's jaw. Hot blood sprayed across her face as the blade found something vital, and the predator collapsed with a gurgling scream that woke the entire camp. Chaos erupted instantly. Cadets scrambled from bedrolls as more predators surged forward, drawn by their pack-mate's death cry. Kira yanked her knife free, already spinning toward the next threat. Behind her, she heard Corvin roar, the massive droma finally finding a fight that matched his warrior instincts. Something metal rang against scales as Jorvok swung a salvage support beam like a club. Circle formation. Rena's voice cut through the panic, her command training overriding fear. Protect the injured. Weapons. Anything sharp now. The cadets responded with impressive speed, forming a defensive perimeter around the fire. They had no proper weapons, but they had debris, they had tools, they had the desperate creativity of beings fighting for survival. Shenna used her crystalline body to refract firelight directly into predator eyes, temporarily blinding them. Lissa's claws extended, longer than Kira had realized, slashing at anything that came close. But it was not enough. These creatures hunted in packs, coordinated their attacks, learned from each failed attempt. They were testing the defenses, probing for weakness, and Kira could see their strategy evolving in real time. They are too smart. Talver shouted, his forearms wielding makeshift spears fashioned from broken metal. They are flanking us. Kira's mind raced, tactical training combining with predatory instinct. The creatures wanted to meet the fresh kill she had brought back. It hung from a makeshift rack near the fire, blood still dripping, sent impossible to mask. As long as it remained, the predators would keep coming, keep attacking, keep killing until they claimed their prize or died trying. Rena! Kira dodged another lunging predator, opening a gash along its flank as it passed. The meat! We need to give them something. That is our food supply. It is also a target. Kira kicked a burning branch toward an approaching creature, buying seconds. We throw them part of it, lead them away from camp. Rena hesitated only a moment, then nodded sharply. Corvin, the southern quarter. Throw it into the jungle. Far as you can. The Dromoth grabbed a massive chunk of boar creature. His strength allowed him to hurl it like a projectile deep into the darkness beyond camp perimeter. 3 predators immediately broke off their attack, racing after the offering. But the rest remained, circling, waiting. Not enough, Kira muttered. She could see the lead predator now, larger than the others, scars crisscrossing its scale hide. Alpha, the pack leader. It was not interested in easy meat. It wanted to establish dominance, to teach these strange creatures that this territory belonged to predators, not prey. It wanted a challenge, wanted to prove its strength. Fine, Kira could give it that. Keep them off me, she said quietly to Lissa, who had positioned herself at Kira's shoulder. 30 seconds. That is all I need. You are insane. I am human. Same thing. Kira stepped forward, away from the defensive circle, into the open space between fire and jungle. The Alpha's 6 eyes locked onto her immediately, recognition flickering across its reptilian features. This one had challenged it. This one had killed its packmate. This one needed to be destroyed. The Alpha moved like liquid shadow, covering ground with terrifying speed. Kira stood her ground, knife held low, breathing controlled. Her grandmother's voice echoed through memory. Big predators rely on intimidation, girl. They expect you to run. When you stand and fight instead, it confuses them. Use that confusion. The Alpha lunged, jaws opening wide enough to engulf Kira's entire torso. She dropped to one knee, feeling teeth snap shut inches above her head, and drove her blade up through the soft palate into the creature's brain. It thrashed violently, nearly wrenching the knife from her grip, but she held on, twisting, opening the wound wider. The Alpha's death was neither quick nor quiet. It took nearly 10 seconds of convulsing agony before the massive body finally collapsed, pinning Kira beneath 300 kilograms of dead weight. Chun! Multiple voices shouted her name. Corvin reached her first, his massive strength allowing him to lift the corpse enough for Kira to wriggle free. She emerged gasping, covered in blood and viscera, but alive, around the camp perimeter. The remaining predators had frozen, watching their leader's death with what might have been shock or calculation. Then, as if by unspoken agreement, they melted back into the jungle, disappearing as silently as they had arrived. Silence descended, broken only by heavy breathing and the crackling fire. "Is anyone seriously injured?" Rena called out, her voice remarkably steady given the circumstances. Quick assessment revealed mostly minor wounds, scratches and bruises from frantic combat. Talver had taken a nasty gash across one secondary arm, but Shenna was already treating it with salvaged medical supplies. Jorvok nursed bruised ribs where a predator had slammed him against a tree. But everyone was alive, functional, survivors. Kira sat beside the Alpha's corpse, studying it with professional detachment. 3 meters of pure muscle and scale, evolved for efficient killing, but dead now, because it had underestimated what a human could do when cornered. "That was the stupidest, bravest thing I have ever witnessed," Lissa said, settling beside her. The felin's fur was matted with blood, her claws still extended. You challenged an apex predator in single combat. It would have kept attacking until it won or died. I shortened the process. Kira began cleaning her knife, the motion almost meditative. Besides, now we have more meat. By midday, they had tripled their meat supply and fashioned crude tools from bones and claws. Kira showed Rena how to stretch and cure the hide, create material that could serve as shelter reinforcement or even crude armor. "You learned all this from your grandmother?" Rena asked, her delicate hands working the hide with surprising skill. "Her and necessity. Earth still has wilderness zones where people practice traditional survival. It is considered nostalgic, but the skills are real." Kira paused, looking across the camp where cadets were now working with focus efficiency. "I never thought I would actually use them. The galaxy is fortunate you did." That afternoon, Kira ranged deeper into jungle, this time with Lissa as backup. The felin's natural stealth and enhanced senses made her ideal for scouting, and Kira appreciated having someone competent watching her back. They located a massive fruit tree laden with edible offerings, filled water containers from a pristine stream, and identified several plant species with medicinal properties. "How do you know that one is safe?" Lissa asked, watching Kira examine a vine with broad leaves. "Smell mostly, and this pattern here." Kira pointed to small markings on the leaf underside. "Herbivores have been eating it. If it is safe for them, probably safe for us. But I will test it carefully first. Small amount, wait a few hours. See if there are any reactions. Methodical. Alive. There is a difference. They returned to camp as the sun reached its apex, arms laden with supplies. The transformation was remarkable. In just 2 days, the crash site had evolved from desperate survivors huddling around wreckage to something resembling an actual functioning camp. Shelters were constructed. Food was organized. Water was purified and stored. Cadets had assigned roles based on capability, with Rena coordinating logistics with impressive efficiency. Even Commander Vrel's death had been properly honored, his body given military funeral rites before being buried away from camp to avoid attracting scavengers. Chun, Talver approached as she was sorting through gathered plants. His skin had regained some color. The fresh protein and breathable atmosphere combining to stabilize his condition. I owe you an apology. When you first suggested hunting, I thought it was arrogance. Now I see it was confidence backed by genuine capability. You've kept us alive. We have kept each other alive, Kira corrected. I can hunt and gather, but I cannot organize logistics, treat injuries, or maintain camp defenses alone. Everyone contributes. That is how we survive. Still, thank you. The days fell into rhythm after that. Kira would rise before dawn, venture into the jungle for 3 to 4 hours, and return with food, water, or useful materials. The others maintained camp, processed what she brought back, and continued improving their temporary home. Injuries healed. Strength returned. Spirits lifted. By day 5, they had established a functional society, complete with hunting schedules, guard rotations, and even rudimentary entertainment as cadets shared stories from their homeworlds during evening meals. But Kira could sense something building. The jungle had been too quiet lately, predators avoiding the area after the Alpha's death. That meant something bigger had moved in, something that even the pack hunters feared. She mentioned this to Rena during their nightly strategy discussion. How big are we talking? The Sylthian asked, her wings fluttering nervously. Big enough that everything else is staying clear. I have been finding tracks near the river. 3-toed, each toe the size of my head. Deep impressions, meaning serious weight. Whatever made them is an apex predator several levels above what we have encountered. Can we defend against it? Kira considered carefully. If it comes here, maybe. If we are lucky and smart and very, very coordinated. But honestly, best defense is not being here when it arrives. We cannot move Commander Vrel's burial site. Military protocol requires. Screw protocol, Kira said bluntly. Vrel told me to keep you alive. That was his last order. I intend to follow it, even if it means bending some rules. Rena was quiet for a long moment. You have changed, Chin. When we started academy training 6 months ago, you were quiet, followed orders precisely, never pushed boundaries. Now you are giving orders, making command decisions, and everyone listens. Survival changes people. It strips away the unnecessary and leaves only what matters. Kira looked at the sleeping forms of her fellow cadets, these beings from across the galaxy who had become something like family. I learned that I am good at keeping people alive. Turns out that matters more than I realized. It matters very much. Day 6 brought the storm. Kira sensed it hours before the first drops fell, reading the jungle's behavior. The way birds went silent and small creatures sought shelter. She directed everyone to reinforce structures, secure supplies, and prepare for serious weather. When the deluge arrived, it was biblical. Rain fell in sheets, so thick visibility dropped to mere meters. Wind howled through canopy with enough force to tear branches from trees. Lightning illuminated the jungle in stark flashes, thunder following with bone-shaking intensity. They huddled in reinforced shelters, listening to nature's fury rage around them. Water poured through every gap, turning the ground to mud, threatening to wash away everything they had built. For 6 hours, the storm battered them without mercy, testing their constructions, their resolve, their will to survive. And then, as abruptly as it began, the storm passed. Silence descended, eerie and complete. Kira emerged from shelter, surveying the damage. Structures had held, though several needed repairs. Supplies were mostly intact, protected by the hides they had cured. But the jungle itself had transformed, water everywhere, familiar landmarks obscured by flood and debris. "Everyone accounted for," she called out. "All present," Rena confirmed. "Some injuries, nothing serious. But Chin, you should see this." Kira followed the Sylthian to the camp's eastern edge, where the storm had torn away a massive section of undergrowth. Revealed beneath was something impossible, something that made Kira's breath catch. Metal, smooth, geometrically precise, clearly artificial, a structure buried beneath centuries of jungle growth, now exposed by the storm's violence. "That is not natural," Lissa whispered, her feline eyes wide. "No," Kira agreed. "It is not." They spent the rest of day 6 carefully excavating, revealing more of the structure. It appeared to be some kind of bunker or facility, constructed from materials that had resisted decades of weathering. The entrance was sealed, but Corvin's strength combined with leverage from metal debris eventually forced it open. Inside, preserved by hermetic seals, they found supplies. Emergency rations designed for long-term storage, water purification equipment, medical kits far superior to what had survived crash, and most importantly, a functioning communication beacon. "This is a military facility," Rena breathed, examining markings on supply crates. "Galactic peacekeepers from the Outer Rim conflicts 40 years ago. It must have been abandoned and forgotten." "Forgotten by them," Kira said, already activating the beacon. "But we just found it, and that beacon is military grade. Rescue will detect it immediately." The device powered up with a satisfying hum. Status lights flickering green. Connection established. Signal broadcasting. Rescue en route. Estimated arrival 6 hours. Cheers erupted through the group, relief and joy mingling with exhaustion. They had done it. Survived 7 days in hostile jungle. Overcome impossible odds and lived to tell the tale. But Kira remained quiet, staring into jungle depths where something massive still prowled, drawn by the beacon's electronic signature. "We are not safe yet," she said softly, so only Rena could hear. "That thing I mentioned, the apex predator, it is coming. I can feel it." 6 hours, Rena replied. "We just need to survive 6 more hours. Then we'd better prepare." They fortified the bunker entrance, using salvaged metal and cured hides to create barriers. Weapons were distributed, actual military-grade equipment from the facility's armory. Defensive positions were established, with clear field of fire and fallback points. Every cadet took a position, ready for whatever came. Night fell. The jungle came alive with sounds, but one noise stood out. Footsteps, massive, deliberate, approaching with predatory certainty. Then it emerged from darkness into the camp's light, and Kira understood why everything else had fled. The creature stood easily 6 meters tall, bipedal but hunched, with arms that ended in claws the size of swords. Scaled armor covered its body, thicker than anything they had encountered. 6 eyes burned with intelligence that bordered on sentience, studying the fortified position with tactical awareness. It had tracked them for days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And now, drawn by the beacon's signal, it had come to claim its prey. "Hold positions," Rena commanded. "Do not fire until it commits." The creature circled slowly, testing their defenses, looking for weakness. Kira watched its movements, seeing patterns, recognizing hunting behavior. It was smart enough to be cautious, experienced enough to know rushing in would be costly. But it also had not encountered coordinated resistance before, had not faced beings with weapons, tactics, and the desperate will to survive. "When it charges," Kira said quietly, "aim for the joints, armored everywhere else. But joints are vulnerable. Knees, elbows, neck. Concentrate fire. Bring it down fast." The creature's circling stopped. Decision made. It lowered into a crouch, muscles tensing. Then it charged, and the jungle exploded with weapons fire. Military-grade pulse rifles lit up the night, energy bolts hammering into the creature's armored hide. Most deflected harmlessly, but concentrated fire at the joints began to show effect. The creature roared, pain and rage mingling, but kept coming. Kira stepped forward, rifle steady, picking her shots with precision learned from months of academy training. She aimed for the left knee joint, 3 rapid shots that finally penetrated armor and struck vulnerable tissue beneath. The leg buckled, throwing the creature off balance. Corvin emerged from the side, wielding a massive piece of debris like a club, and struck the creature's injured knee with all his Droma's strength. Bone cracked audibly, and the creature collapsed to one leg, still dangerous but compromised. "Keep firing," Renna shouted. "Do not let it recover." Lissa darted in from the opposite side, claws extended, striking at exposed flesh where armor had been blasted away. The creature tried to swipe at her, but the felin's agility kept her just out of reach, harrying and attacking, death by 1,000 cuts. It took 3 minutes of concentrated assault to finally bring the creature down. When it collapsed, the ground shook from the impact. The jungle fell silent once more, as if nature itself was shocked by what had just occurred. 17 cadets stood over the corpse of an apex predator, weapons smoking, bodies exhausted, but alive. Victorious. "We did it," Talver said, his voice filled with wonder. "We actually killed it." "We survived it," Kira corrected. "There is a difference." The rescue ship arrived 2 hours later, its searchlights illuminating the jungle like artificial suns. Medical personnel descended in organized teams, shocked to find all 17 cadets not just alive, but relatively healthy. The crash site analysis showed they should have been dead within 3 days. Captain Vren, a grizzled Corinthian with more combat medals than Kira could count, surveyed the camp with professional eyes. He saw the cured hides, the organized supply storage, the defensive fortifications, the butcher remains of multiple predators. His gaze finally settled on Kira. "Which one of you is in command?" "Cadet Renna maintained operational command," Kira replied formally. "I handled resource acquisition." "Resource acquisition," Vren repeated slowly, looking at the massive apex predator corpse. "Is that what we are calling it?" "Seemed more professional than saying I hunted and killed things so everyone could eat, sir." The captain's expression was unreadable. "Report to medical for clearance. Then report to my office on the ship. All of you, I want to understand how first-year cadets survived 7 days on a Class 7 survival planet with military efficiency." The medical examination took an hour. Kira was declared healthy aside from minor lacerations, bruising, and borderline exhaustion. Every cadet received similar assessments, the medical team openly baffled by the lack of serious injuries or malnutrition. Captain Vren's office was sparse but functional, decorated only with tactical maps and commendations. He listened to their report in silence, occasionally making notes, his reptilian features betraying no emotion. When they finished, he sat back, studying them with unreadable eyes. "In 40 years of military service," he said finally, "I have never seen a survival situation handled with such competence. You established functional society, maintained discipline, adapted to hostile environment, and defended against multiple predator assaults. First year, cadets should not possess these capabilities." "Sir, we had advantages," Renna said carefully. "Cadet Chen's survival skills proved essential. I am aware of Cadet Chen's contributions. I am also aware that the rest of you adapted, learned, and supported her efforts with remarkable efficiency. That speaks to leadership, to trust, to unit cohesion that typically takes years to develop." Vren's gaze swept across all 17 cadets. "You functioned as a military unit under impossible circumstances. That is noteworthy." He pulled up a holographic display, showing academy rankings. "Before this incident, most of you were middling students. Average scores, unremarkable performance, destined for standard postings. Now, you have survived something that kills trained soldiers. You have practical experience most officers never acquire. That changes everything." "Sir," Kira asked uncertainly. "Effective immediately, you are all being promoted to advanced tactical training programs. Your survival demonstrated capabilities that cannot be taught in simulations. The Academy needs soldiers who understand real combat, real survival, real leadership under pressure." Vren smiled slightly. "Congratulations. You just became the most experienced first-year cadets in Academy history." Silence filled the office as the words sank in. Then Talver started laughing, a sound of pure relief and exhausted joy. Others joined in, the tension of 7 days finally breaking, replaced by triumph and disbelief. Kira remained quiet, processing everything. 7 days ago, she had been a mediocre student with heritage skills she considered quaint. Now she was apparently being fast-tracked through military advancement because those same skills had kept 17 beings alive. Cadet Chun, Vren said, focusing on her. Your service record will reflect exceptional performance under extreme conditions. Additionally, Commander Vrel's knife is yours to keep. He would have wanted you to have it. Kira touched the blade at her belt, feeling its familiar weight. Thank you, sir. Do not thank me. Thank your grandmother for teaching you what mattered. Thank your fellow cadets for trusting you when logic said they should not. Thank yourself for being human, when being human meant the difference between life and death. 3 weeks later, Kira stood before the advanced tactics class, 17 familiar faces among the hundreds of cadets listening to her survival lecture. She had been asked to document her experience, to teach others what she had learned, to pass on knowledge that might save future lives. Survival is not about strength, she said, her voice carrying through the lecture hall. It is not about weapons or technology or superior firepower. It is about adaptation, about reading your environment, understanding threats, and using every resource available. My species learned this lesson across millions of years. We survived ice ages, predators, disease, and each other because we were adaptable above all else. She held up Vrel's knife, the blade catching light. This tool killed 6 predators, butchered enough meat to feed 17 beings for a week, and became a symbol of why humanity earned its place among the stars. Not because we are stronger or smarter or more advanced, but because we refuse to die even when the universe tries very hard to kill us. In the audience, Talver smiled. Rena's wings fluttered with pride. Lissa's tail swished with satisfaction. Corvin nodded with hard-earned respect. Shenna's crystalline features reflected light in patterns that might have been approval. They had survived together, learned together, become something greater than any of them could have been alone. And in a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations, safe worlds, and comfortable existences, 17 cadets now carried knowledge that their ancestors had forgotten but humans had preserved. That survival is the first victory, and everything else follows from there. Kira finished her lecture to thunderous applause, but her mind was already elsewhere. Somewhere out in the galaxy, another crisis would emerge. Another impossible situation would arise. Another group of beings would need someone who understood that when civilization fails, when technology breaks, when all hope seems lost, you adapt. You endure. You survive. Because that is what humans do. It is written in their genes, coded in their history, and carried forward in every generation that refuses to accept death as the final answer. The jungle had tested them. They had passed. And the galaxy would never look at humans or their allies quite the same way again.